Welcome everybody to the first ever Unlocking Service Growth episode. So I'm Ryan Groth and I'm co-hosted and joined by Greg Hayne. Say hey everyone. Say Greg. Hey, hi Greg.
Good morning everybody.
So why did we start this program? Well, Greg and I both are coaching the commercial roofing industry. Greg is an incredible operations expert in service. He knows because he was a consultant helping roofers and owners and roofers were just struggling with service, and he started to coach because he said why is one experience so much different than the other? He has a great service program. He also has a facilitated peer group where he works with tier 1 commercial roofing owners and their teams. So Greg offers an incredible degree of expertise. I bring expertise around the sales side, and he and I have just been friends. We have a bilateral kind of mentorship where I help him with some things. He helps me with a lot of things. And at some point we just said, I think it's time to team up and time to bring some value to the industry, share our resources, and put on a regular program to grow service. And why is service so important? Well, it's high margin, faster cash flow, it's relational, and it's more predictable and helps you through many economic situations that are unpredictable. And so we love talking about service growth, and we're just excited to have an opportunity to share our expertise. And so this is for growth-minded contractors and service departments who want to grow revenue operationally, culturally, and create more profitable, predictable brands. This is what we are all about. So we are pumped to have this program underway. This is our first one. We'll have many to come, and we will be featuring some incredible contractors. And the first one that we have some special guests today that Greg will introduce. We're really excited to have them share what has helped them grow and what's helped them get unstuck and continue to progress in the industry through their innovations and their culture. So really excited. But Greg, thanks for doing this with me first off. And you want to just say hey and welcome everyone and then welcome our guests?
Thanks, Ryan. Everybody, good morning. I am Greg Hayne with the Hayne Coaching Group. And when Ryan and I, Ryan said it really well. We've known each other a long time. We've always gotten along well. We complement each other well. He's a high integrity guy. I like to think that I am. It just works really well. And when we decided to put this little program together for all of you, the first thing we do is had to come up with who we're going to have for a guest. And we instantly agreed that it should be Rackley Roofing. Rackley Roofing is based in Tennessee, near Nashville. And our guests this morning are Michelle Boykin, who used to be Rackley's service manager many, many moons ago. She is now the Chief Operating Officer. And Michael Miller, who's currently Vice President of Services. Michael, though, when he came into the company, came in a role of sales. And one of the things that happened not too long ago was he was put in charge of service. And when that happened, service went to a new level. So we thought that both of them would make a great contribution to helping all of you get better at service. We are going to encourage you to ask questions, type them into the chat box. Ryan's going to be the chat box monitor. And I'm going to start with some questions for Michelle and Michael. And we're going to have a little conversation. And after we've had that conversation, we'll start going through some of your questions and we will let them respond. And then if Ryan and I cannot contain ourselves, we will respond as well. And so let's jump in. Michelle, let's start with you. If you would be so kind, share with us. Now, I've shared with them you're the Chief Operating Officer, okay? Tell them what that means. And then Michael, when we get to you, tell them what VP of Services actually means. Go ahead.
So Chief Operating Officer basically means that I run the company. If anybody knows our dynamic here, we run EOS, which is Entrepreneurial Operating System. And we have a visionary, which is our owner, Curtis Sutton. So he gets these grandiose ideas and I actually take those and figure out a way to make them happen, turn them into a to-do list basically. So That's kind of what Chief Operating Officer means here.
Thank you. Michael?
Michael Miller. Nice to see everybody. I am Vice President of Service. Like Greg said, I started in sales 5 years ago. I was sales leader for a couple years after that, now Vice President of Service. And what that means here is I get to lead one of the best service companies in the country, and bring new ideas to the table and get to work with some great people to try to better our company and just better the industry as a whole.
So my first basic question, and I don't care which of you answer this, but Michael, you've been doing the service thing for how long?
Going on 2 years, Greg.
All right, so that's what I thought. All right, so you've been doing this about 2 years, and where was the service revenue when you walked in to that role, and where is it now?
When we came out, we had just finished the year when I stepped into the role, and we did $6.5 million as a company fiscal year 2018. So 2019, we grew to 9.2 million, and we're on track this year to do 13 million.
So let's say in those 2 years, you're going to double the revenue from about 6.5 to 13.
That's the plan. Yes, sir.
And are you on track for that?
Yes, sir, we are.
So let's make sure that everybody understands what he just said. He's doubling his revenue in 2 years. It can be done.
Without dropping margins.
Oh yeah, listen, no, their margins have probably gone up. Thanks, Ryan. Their margins have probably gone up. So the next question becomes, and I don't care which of you want to respond to that, how? How did this happen? What's going on that's causing this to occur?
Let's clarify. This is service revenues only. This is not count replacement or new construction. And we could speak to that, and we all know that's a byproduct, but we're focusing on service growth. So these are great numbers.
Yeah.
I would add to that as well. Service for us truly means service. It does not mean small re-roofs. It does not mean waterproofing. That's specific to service as clear as service can be. Just to add to that, I think for us, service is a way of life. Customer service is very important to us, and it's something that we've learned how to hone in on over the past several years. And I think that you have to be completely service focused, separate from production focused, in order for that growth.
Okay, so that's very clearly stated. But what does focused mean, Michelle?
Laser focused. They're separated. We have an office that does nothing but service, and we have an office that does nothing but production. We are laser focused on our service.
Fair enough. Now, so I'm looking at the attendee list, and there are some fine roofing contractors on this a list of attendees that are listening in today, and every single one of them is exactly the same as you. In fact, some of them have their service departments in completely different buildings than their production departments. They have completely different staffs. It's not like you can walk down the hall, all right? But they haven't doubled their sales. How have you doubled your sales?
Well, so there's a lot of things that go into the reason that we've increased sales. And, it's 2 years ago when I started as the VP of service, I like to think of it as I was handed a beautiful brand new Corvette that Curtis and Michelle built from scratch. And all I did was, put a supercharger on it and some racing slicks, and we took off. The company that's been in place here for a long time is by far in my career as a service and sales person is the most amazing company I've ever been involved with, because there's always a vision of where we're going. There's never been a resistance to change. We've always been open to new ideas. We've always been open to coaching. The greatest basketball players, baseball players, football players have great coaches. So we're always open to learn. And I think over the last 2 years, a lot of that stuff is kind of, we've been more open to take risks, make changes. And if the changes don't work, we can change it back, or we can change to something different. We've really put a focus on our sales team of going out and getting new business. You can only grow your existing clients so much. You have to go out and farm that new business, hunt that new business. And, we hold people accountable to their numbers. We provide some of the best customer service that you can get anywhere. And we take care of our customers. So we've done a really good job of keeping the business that we have, and we've done a really good job of growing the business and bringing on new customers.
Let's unpack some of this, because you said a lot. All right.
I heard like 4 of their core values in Michael's answer. If you caught that.
So the first thing that you said is we've got a vision, and there's a bunch of people on this call that already have visions too. They haven't been able to grow from 6.5 million to 13 million in 2 years. And I think vision is absolutely a part of it. Okay. The second thing you said is no resistance to change. And I know, looking in from the outside, what I see at Rackley is no resistance to change. And what I see at most other organizations, most other service organizations, is massive resistance to change. So you mentioned that you try something, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, we just go try something else. Do you have some examples that you could share?
I think the biggest one, and I think it's the biggest one probably across all roofing companies, is having the roofing expert be the person in charge of scheduling or being in charge of the customer service side. That's problematic. And not to say that it can't be done, because it can, and it can be done very well. But there tends to be a focus way too much on the technical than on the customer focus. And there also tends to be this almost sense that that person that's technical gets too condescending with the customer. Not that they mean to, but the customer has no idea. And so you almost have to, and I hate to use this term, but you almost have to dumb it down for your customer. And having that separation of technical versus customer service is really important. And I think that we learned that the hard way, but we've flourished since we've changed that.
That is a great point. Any others?
I mean, there's a lot of small stuff that we change, but there's really nothing big that sticks out that was, I would say, something that just brings a lot of light to that makes you go, wow, why did we do that? Or that was just a...
So, all right. So you can't come up with something, but I can. All right, because I'm privileged to work with you, and I'll share a story which I think does a great job of explaining the Rackley, Michael's approach as a service leader. And so I'm sitting in Rackley's office one day with the 2 service coordinator ladies, and I pulled up a pen and I said, now this is my magic wand. And if I could wave this magic wand and I could fix something, what would you want me to fix? And the one girl, I think it was Cheryl, said, well, the thing is, we've got this problem. And the problem is the guys get their paperwork turned in at 9 o'clock in the morning, but we can't invoice it right away. And I said, why not? And they said, well, because we're using about time to do our timekeeping. And sometimes what we discover is that the time that gets recorded on the work orders doesn't match about time. And so we have to wait until the end of the day to reconcile this before we send out the invoice. And so, and the point I would make to all of you listening in other words, you're putting your convenience ahead of what the customer needs, which is a fast invoice. And so I said, okay, let me see if I can help you with that. And I literally stuck my head out the corridor and I said, Michael, come down here. Michael, do you remember this conversation yet?
I do, Greg.
All right. So Michael walks down And I said, Michael, if we didn't have to do this, they could be getting invoices out same day. And he said, well, and here is the key to one of the things that makes Rackley great. Michael said, well, then we're just going to change it. And then he said, we'll take a look at it after a month because we're going to have some overs and unders and we've got enough. It's not that big a deal. And what he did was what made it easy and best for his customer, not what's easy and best for him. It actually made it easier for him in this case, but it doesn't always. So let me shift gears a little bit. What are the two biggest constraints to growth that you have experienced at Rackley that once you addressed it, unlocked what's happening right now?
I think for me, the biggest constraint was me. I am very operational. And while I'm not necessarily afraid of growth, I kind of miss those growth opportunities because I'm digging into the weeds. Oh, what's this problem? What's that problem? And I can't see ahead to say, okay, well, we've got this growth opportunity. And with Michael coming in with really, this big sales background, he had managed a lot of sales. He had managed a lot of sales teams and really was sales focused. He came in and said, but we can change this and we can change that. And if we do these things, then all of a sudden we'll be here. And he saw things that I would have never seen. So for us, that was a big constraint that was removed, and we've seen the growth that we've had since that's happened. Also, what else? Really right now, the only constraint that we have is not being able to quickly pipeline our employees. We try to promote from within and we want to train them in the Rackley way. And that takes time. So we may have somebody that's very experienced, but they're not yet ready to move into a new role because we need to make sure that they understand our core values and who we are. And that process takes some time. So I think that's really the only constraint that we have at the moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please. No, Michael, please add to that.
So, well, I think constraints that we have, I think we've got through a lot of those. I think a lot of the things that we look at that some other contractors may not look at, which would actually help them grow, which I'm sure is what a lot of people are on this call for is the separation that Michelle talked about between service and production is huge. Service can be a standalone 100% high revenue generating, high profitability generating business. To do that, salespeople, I feel like it's a must. I mean, you can only you can only grow your existing clients so much, especially if you do a really good job at what you do, because you essentially run yourself out of business. So you got to have new clients. You got to have that good mix of how much do we, work with our existing clients, how much do we farm new clients, and you got to have the faith that service can grow and and just take the leap. I don't know. It's hard to describe. You got to take the leap. The salespeople that we have very little roofing experience. They go out and they hunt new clients and build relationships. They're not necessarily going out and trying to, be a professional in the roofing industry.
Oh. You just said something really important. Say that again. The salespeople you hire I thought you mean you hire people that don't know roofing to sell roofing?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm one of them.
Yeah, and by the way, Michael is a good friend of mine, and I tease about Michael a little bit because he's running the service department, but I don't want to say Michael doesn't know how to make data forma work, but Michael is not a data forma god. Are you?
I know enough to be dangerous.
There you go. All right.
Can I unpack a little bit about the sales side?
Please.
So, Michael, it's funny how you and I both are like, hey, Rackley's a sales organization, right? But Curtis is like, we are not a sales organization, right? So I think it's really interesting to build a sales team within the culture and a brand positioning of we're here to service you, right? And so that's a kind of a strange dichotomy, because we have salespeople who are trying to close a deal under a service structure. And so that culturally, if we don't say, hey, we're here to serve, then what can happen is people feel sold to rather than served, and we want to serve. So, and then when we implement like a sales process, which, you know, we've collaborated and I've helped implement some of the things that we teach and coach your team, we're actually asking a lot of questions with the to the prospect. It benefits the salesperson, but it's actually with the spirit of better serving them. So it's a strange tension of, hey, we want to grow, but we also are here to serve. So can you speak to how just the infrastructure of your sales team and the culture of it and some of the changes that have been made in order to still be, hey, we're here to serve Tennessee, but my gosh, Memory, Casey, whoever it is, they want to get a deal done too, right? And they also want to make sure it's in their best interest to work with the right type of people and not waste a lot of Rackley's time and resources on the things that maybe weren't a fit. So can you just maybe talk to that a little bit, just structurally, culturally around sales team within a service mission?
Yeah, sure. So it's funny. We had some guests in a couple weeks ago, and Curtis and I were kind of started talking after we got done with the meeting about, you know, Curtis said, hey, we're a service organization. And we talked about the difference between kind of our mentality of what's a service organization, what's a sales organization. And after we talked about it, I think we had a similar mentality of what they both meant. We just kind of had a different definition for ourselves. And, you know, when I say a sales organization, that means that everybody's selling. Michelle sells, Curtis sells, our estimators sell, our service foreman sell. Everybody in this company helps the sales process go, which is kind of why I would say a sales organization. But at the same time, we do pride ourselves in being a service organization, and that's what this company was built on. And at the end of the day, that's what we are. But, you know, in regards to the sales team and kind of how we developed and built that over the last several years, you know, we started with a salesperson. We built a sales team. We now have 6 salespeople that are only dedicated to selling service. We have 1 salesperson that deals directly with general contractors and works on the roofing side of it. And then, you know, then we have the production side of the business that is not tied to any of the sales that we're talking about at this point in time. So we have 6 at this point in time. We're actually bringing on another service-only salesperson, which will put us at 7. She's starting this week. You know, we got a good mix and kind of came up with a formula of where we feel we need to be in regards to, you know, how many service estimators do you need per, you know, X amount of foreman equals this amount of service estimators and service coordinators. And then we take that number, and amazingly enough, we have salespeople at 1.5 times that number. So we have more salespeople than we have service coordinators. We have some more salespeople than we have service estimators. You know, one of the things we've really gotten a lot better at is we are doing twice the revenue in the last 2 years, but we have the same amount of service estimators. You know, one of the things that we've got a lot better at over the last couple of years is qualifying our clients and our customers on the front side versus, you know, wanting to go out and quote every ounce of business that we could possibly do. You know, that's one of the things that Ryan's really helped us out with a lot, is just through that qualification of customers, trying to make it to where we've actually have an opportunity to close the business at the end versus going through all the steps and we get to the end and we really never had an opportunity to start with. So that's a little bit of it.
So hang on a second. Let's do a hypothetical. Let's pretend that you don't have those 6 salespeople. You've got none of them. What would happen to your service revenue?
Our service revenue would actually start to decline because you can only, you know, you can only stay flat for so long. You've got, like I said, you got to bring in new clients, especially with the process that we've got in place. Which I'm not going to go too deep into that, but process that we have in place, we have to continue to bring in new clients.
So and the reason for that is basically once you get a client, you take good care of them. You basically get most of the time you get, if not all, the vast majority of their work, and you max out the available growth with that customer. So if you want more, you got to go someplace else. You can only farm so much.
And I want to just weigh in and say Brackley's approach to generating new clients is not isolated to only salespeople. It is the brand investment, right? So it's the Rackley truck, it's the Titans, it's the paid advertisements, right? And so if you look at your company growth and revenue as a machine, you know, you have calories and cash, right? You're putting cash into advertising, which is your trucks and everybody's branded, all these things. And then calories, which is your salespeople literally sweating to try to hunt business. And so you're adding to both of those in the equation, and you're seeing it's time for a new one. And so I think that's really, really good. Greg, do you have anything else for them before we have about almost 24 questions from the.
Oh yeah. And well, some of these questions, there's a lot of great questions here, but some of these require very simple answers that we really don't need to spend a lot of time on. Rackley's structure in terms of how they structure their service department is basically the same as everybody else. There's no magic in that. They have a service manager, a coordinator. They have service superintendents. There's no special magic in that. They ask about the personality trait of a scheduler, and for Clayton, Rackley's service coordinators do not piss off their customers, and they are good at customer service. And so that's the personality trait. They find ways to make the customer happy rather than saying, no, I can't be there till Tuesday of next week. Too bad. If
you disc them, they'd be a high I, high S, or high I, high D?
No, I think that we have disked them, and I think they're typical coordinators, but they also have customer service skills, which you can get. What the problem that most roofers have, and by the way, the coordinators are all female. The problem that most roofing contractors have is they put a roof guy in charge of the service department. He answers the phone and he sounds like a roof guy. Doesn't work. And Ryan, I realize I'm jumping around as we go through this.
I have one. Our first question is, someone just starting out servicing commercial roofs, where's a good place to generate leads? My program, you're actually a customer, so you're going to find that out. But prospecting, outbound, LinkedIn, and your current relationships is a place to start. Michael, you want to hit one or two answers? Where do you generate leads if you're just starting out?
Hey, a lot of it's, there's some LinkedIn networking events. We're involved in a lot of organizations to help that. And then just getting out and going out and making calls, trying to find new business via phone, via going out to industrial parks and making cold calls, warm calls, especially where we actually set those calls up to help generate a warm call versus a cold call. But yeah, there's activity. We measure activity on our scorecard, and if they're hitting their activity levels, typically the salespeople will do really well. When you see the sales start to slip, and I know some of our salespeople are on this call, it's typically because activity.
All right, next question. What percentage of your revenues is preventative maintenance, AKA contract work, which I love me some contract work, versus the not to exceed repairs, time, material, and not to exceed?
We don't typically do a lot of not to exceeds. We try to steer clear of those. One of the things that we do is as part of our EOS program, we've determined who our customer is, and our customer is someone that trusts us, values us as a problem solver, is quality and safety oriented, and they don't take shortcuts themselves. So we have done a really great job of making sure that the customer that we are meeting the needs of also is a good customer for us. So we don't do a lot of not to exceeds in the first place. What is
that is like
that was the
preaching
speech
right there.
That was the EOS speech.
Man, that is like, oh, that is good. Love
Say
it.
that again. Say that again, Michelle.
the whole thing?
Yes, the whole thing. Give the speech.
So we work, I'm gonna mess it up now. We work with building owners, managers, contractors, consultants, and institutions.
Move toward the mic. Sorry, we're losing you.
We work with building owners, managers, consultants, and contractors who trust us, value us as problem solvers, and who do not take shortcuts themselves.
Do not take shortcuts themselves. So your salespeople, we're interviewing the prospect to see, are they our client, not just happy to be here, right? So we've got to move through some questions.
Hey, hang on. Michelle or Michael, what percentage of your total service revenue comes through contract work?
It's between 75 and 80%.
75 to 80%. Thank you. And by the way, they are not the only people. I mean, they're our guests, but there are other people on this call that have or are now producing that same kind of numbers. And the only way you do that is with salespeople. Continue, Ryan.
Yes, we're not just, come on, somebody. Let's go. This is good. All right. There's always a correlation with service and replacement work. And you guys are in a booming metropolis or near one in Nashville. A ton of cranes have been up for the last few years. Please share the correlation of replacement, new construction work as a result of growing your service department. Is there been a trend?
I'll take this one. Absolutely.
Your volume, guys, we're struggling to hear you. I don't know what changed, but it's like a little bit blocked or something. I don't know if there's a setting.
How about now?
A little low. It's okay.
I'll speak loud. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. So, service is a direct indication of what you should expect out of re-roofing in the future. The more service you sell, the more you're going to increase your customer base, and the more relationships you build while you're building your customer base, the more opportunities you're going to have for re-roofs down the road. So, we don't go out to a customer and tell them they need a new roof. We go out to a customer and tell them we want to extend the life of the roof. Gives us an opportunity to build a relationship with that customer and a better opportunity for us to do the re-roofing down the road. So there's definitely a direct correlation with that.
Okay. How many service trucks is Rackley currently running? And maybe Greg, you know the answer to this as well. What's the average revenue per truck? Number of trucks, average revenue per truck?
We currently have 25 trucks, and we'll average just over $500,000 a truck annually.
And what is the hourly billing rate for each man in a two-man crew?
$75 an hour.
All right, so you take that $500,000 and divide it by $75 an hour and multiply it by your bill out rate to have that show you what that means for you. Because some of you are billing more, some of you are billing less. But let me tell you something, over $500,000 per truck is good.
Cha-ching, baby. All right. Why is it important for customers to get invoices out in the same day? I think this is a good question. I mean, I don't know why we wouldn't want to get paid fast, but maybe answer that question for me.
So I'm going to use Greg's analogy for this because he uses it for all of his great service presentations. But you would never expect to go to a grocery store, get all your items, put them on the cart thing, and for the 16 or 17-year-old kid to say, hold on, okay, we'll give you a bill next week or next month. You expect what you're going to pay for it right then and there, and you're going to swipe your card while you're there. That's the best explanation to it. The quicker that you get, in realistic terms, the quicker that you get your invoice to your customer, the quicker that you get paid, and the less likely you're going to have somebody fight you over an invoice.
And I'm going to wait. Nice job, Michelle, but I'm going to weigh in on this. Okay. An invoice is a communication document that tells a building owner what you did, and they want to know now. Just like in another example, you drop your truck off for service on a Monday. They call you Monday afternoon, say you got the tires rotated, check the brakes, the fluids all look good. You can pick your truck up Thursday when we have the invoice added up. It's insane. Nobody would put up with that nonsense. And that, if you're not getting your invoices out and it's within 24 hours of the time that you're walking off the roof, you're not giving them good customer service.
Mm-hmm.
What else, Ryan?
How many coordinators do you have with the 25 trucks going? How many coordinators do you have on staff working?
We have 4 service coordinators, 4 estimators, and 7 salespeople.
Cool. Good questions. Good answers. I know a lot of people struggle, and you guys don't as much, is finding new techs and developing new techs. And I think it's something I heard Greg share once. He's like, you have your awesome trucks, you have your best crews, and there should always be somebody, a novice, right? Somebody learning from somebody who's more experienced all the time. And you have crews that are going to be terrible, right? They're inexperienced, but that's just the nature of growth, right? If everyone was perfect, you're not growing. I love that. But you also got to develop these techs. So how often do you train, and do you do in-house training? Or are you trying to find experienced service techs, or do you just not even need them to be experienced at all because you have an in-house training program? Can you speak to that?
So we're actually sitting in our classroom space of Rackley University right now. There's a door behind Michael's head that's actually set up to be a roofing. It's a roof deck. There's curbs, there's corners, there's parapets, there's everything you could think of in there to do for training. Right now we're kind of limited because of COVID. We don't want to put a lot of people in there all at once like we would normally do. But one of the things that I've seen a lot of other roofing companies do that we've tried really hard to not do is to underestimate or undervalue your field employees. They can learn a lot more than you think that they can. So train them, and they will pick it up and they will run with it faster than you ever thought that they could. So whoever you have now, train them. And then guess what they're going to do? They're going to tell their friends and their family to come work for you, which is an automatic pipeline of people to train and do it all over again.
But that takes so much time and it's expensive. Oh man, should train the team.
How much time and expense are you losing?
Come on, people. Hey, where do they go for training to train their service people, or where did you guys learn it? Was it all in-house? Did you bring in Greg Hayne? Did you take some of his pages from his book? Talk to that.
We brought Greg Hayne in several years ago, and he met with all of our service team and taught us best customer service that we could learn. And we took that and we rolled with it. Greg actually mentors us and coaches us. So anytime that we've got something going on, we're in communication with him on how to get better. We have in-house safety trainings. There's just a lot of different ways that we try to do trainings. We meet with our service crews once a month, and we go over any issues that have occurred in that past month. We give them the opportunity to speak about whatever, might be going on that they need help with or what they need from us. What other, I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
Very much what Michelle said. We've got we've done very well branding. We've done very well hiring very good people that can grow, that can learn, that can be trained, that are willing to take the time to be trained, to make sure that when the time is right, we can trust them to hand them the keys to a truck, all the tools they need to enter all the information in that needs to be entered in, and they don't have to come in the office anymore. We don't have to see them on a daily basis. We schedule them, they do the work, and all the stuff comes in. So when you have good people, it's extremely easy to train the new people that come in to be good. It's nothing magic that we do. We've got some great service for them. So.
Fantastic. There's a lot of more really good questions, and we'll continue these. I think that we're getting some questions like when a lead comes in, how do you know if it's something you should send like a service oriented salesperson? Or I think you guys actually have a designated in-house estimator, somebody who's more of an in-house person for a lot of the inbound, and then the salespeople are primarily running the leads that they generate only. Am I correct, right?
There's some stuff that's passed over to salespeople just depending on what it is when it comes in. But yeah, in regards to, once again, we feel that we can extend the life of the roof. So when we are called in by a potential client or somebody that wants us to look at their roof, our main goal is to try to figure out how we can extend the life of that roof.
And a lot of them will say, hey, I need a re-roof price. We learn how to handle those, right, through our training. So another one that I think is really good, and Greg, if you could take some more after this as you're scrolling, that would be awesome, because I can't scroll and keep asking at the pace. We have a lot of them.
I think you're doing a fine job, and I'm trying to type in some answers to some of the simple things. Continue.
I have one that I know we get. This right here is like the breaking point that changes the game. It's committing to pay salespeople to motivate them to sell service and not get paid on anything, right? So can you speak to that? We have a different comp plan that we actually implement or recommend, and you guys do, but philosophically it's the same, which is compensate your salespeople to sell service, and the service sales will be made, right? And it's amazing how many people, they're like, well, what do I do? It's like, no, do you even pay them if they sell a re-roof? If you do, is it dramatically different than what they make when they sell service?
So they are paid to sell re-roofs, and it is different because, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that go into to the roofing side of it with gross profit, things like that. So it is different.
I think the biggest point that I would make for us is we do compensate on both, but we could have a salesperson that sells $1 billion in re-roofing, and if they don't hit their goals for service, they're gone. We are very specific on what their goals are.
It's good. It's good. Fantastic. Greg, do you have any off the top here?
So I think that one of the things that you need to keep in mind is that as we're talking about how Rackley organizes their salespeople and how they commission them and so forth, if we bring in 10 guests to this program over the next 10 sessions that are all great service contractors, all 10 are going to do it different. And the key is not that you do it this way or that you do it that way. The key is that you have a system that emphasizes the sale of service and finds a way to inspire the salespeople to want to sell service. And
compensation drives behavior.
Yes, it does. I'm looking at some of the other things that I have come up here. There's some questions about data forma. Rackley uses data forma. FCS would work equally well. Now, Rackley wouldn't think that, but all the FCS users would. Both of them are being used by successful contractors, and we're going to have people that we're going to be bringing onto this program that are FCS users that also have exceptional service departments. It's not the software. I'm sorry, Michelle.
I agree. It wouldn't matter what software we're using. If we're not using it 100%, it's not going to do any good.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of questions. Are the service salespeople the same as the re-roof? The re-roofing, I'll speak to that, is sold. If a salesperson sells service, they would be the one that sells the re-roof. But if it was not with the salesperson, you guys have some other non-sales staff related people that might handle it. Maybe Michael might handle it. Maybe you have one or two designated, more technical kind of service estimators. So that's pretty common. But typically, guys, when the salesperson generates the revenue of service, they're consulting and guiding the re-roof process and will make that sale is a very common situation here. Joe's got a question. What is your success rate with sales hires utilizing that formula? I'm not sure if I understand, if I heard the exact formula you're talking about, but how many sales hires do you do in a year? What is the percentage of hires that will make it? So I'll speak and say the majority of your sales hires do well because you think pretty long-term with them. But maybe you want to speak to maybe your recruiting process so far, which can always improve. But yeah, you've gotten some producers on your team, and
why don't you also talk about where each of these salespeople came from, so that the roofers hear that they didn't come from this roofing company and that roofing company, like Wes and Casey. Go share that.
So I'll just run through it real quick. We have a salesperson that came from one of our equipment rental places. He had a really good relationship with us here. We definitely seen that he was hungry and was just a good salesperson, good person to talk to, and really wanted to take care of our needs. So we hired him. We hired a property manager. Casey's has a property management background.
Actually was a customer of ours.
Was a customer of ours, and she's done really well. We have a salesperson that was a service coordinator here.
She actually started out as a receptionist, moved to service coordinator, and then to sales.
Yeah. So I came from the uniform and facility services industry. Let's see. Hunter and Jake are both younger, early in their sales career. So we're still molding them. I think Jake was in the timeshare, and Hunter done some roofing, but Hunter's I think Hunter's probably 25 years old. So like I said, he's early in his sales career. David Paris actually did come from a roofing company that we had purchased, and his family was in the roofing business. So David, if you're on this call, he was probably the hardest one for us to train.
But he has done phenomenal. But yes, he was the hardest one to break him of bad habits.
so good.
David.
So your oldest tenured salesperson is in their third full year. Is that correct?
So David came on. He's been here longer than that, but yes, Wes would be in year 3.
And then, and that has correlated with their service sales performance, but maybe speak to the range of expectation that somebody could say, hey, if I'm hiring a rep and they're outside sales, they're prospecting, through digitally, they're not getting a whole lot of new leads, where we're not giving them that, they're hunting. Give us like a range, a ramping period process of I think I could speak to Casey, at least Casey's, at least I believe is the highest performing currently. She may not have been last year, but she's doing really well. Speak to the range of revenues. You could call out a monthly average if you like in sales, or annualize it, and what the ramp is looking like on average.
So we measure everything. Now we measure everything even weekly. Don't like to use a annual number, but an annual number is easier for the sake of this explanation. Year 1 in service, the expectation is $400,000 worth of service business. Year 2, it's $750,000 worth of service business. Year 3, it's $1.25 million worth of service business per sales rep. And like I said, we measure it. If you're measuring it on an annual basis, you're taking way too long to measure something. But whatever that breaks to on a weekly basis, and it's all based on tenure.
And it's ranging from a $200,000 a month in service to 35, 40, and it happens. We know the sales cycles vary and all that stuff. But you got some reps that have done a 200+ month, in just service repairs easily, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Would it be fair
we try to avoid having any 0 weeks. That's the main thing. The salespeople need to bring some type of business in the door every week. So,
Michael, what percentage of your salespeople are consistent with that 400, 750, $1.2 million ramp up?
Last year we were. Right now we're on great track to do it again this year. last year, we had, out of our 6 salespeople, 4 of the 6 hit the goal, and the other 2 were knocking on the door of it. So,
all right. So those numbers for the first year, 750 the second, 1.2 the third, are absolutely attainable numbers if you've got the right people, and if you have the right management system in place to supervise them.
absolutely.
You got to train them, got to coach them, got to develop them, hold them accountable. It's nonstop, right? This isn't a set it and forget it program. You're playing offense and you're doing huddles regularly. And it's a constant focus. All right. I have a question here. What would you say to somebody who is not, you have a sales background, Michael, and Curtis is very much a visionary and a brand genius, but is not the most, like, let me hold my salesperson accountable. You know, you do that. And then you do a great job of that. Curtis does a great job of it, and you guys team up. Let me talk to the owner who doesn't know sales. And let me talk to say, hey, I just want to hire a sales manager right now. I just want to hurry up and hire. What would you say to somebody who's thinking that right now? Like, hey, I don't know if I want to learn and do this. This is a lot of work to build a sales organization focusing on service. Let me just hire a sales manager. And you're handling service, $13 million service company. And now you're running the sales team, and you have been, and you guys have attempted to hire a sales manager, and for some reason it didn't work. Well, just, can you speak to that, to somebody who may not want to pay the price of an expensive lesson and get their education in an expensive way? What would you recommend to somebody? I don't know much about sales, but I'm the owner. I don't really have I have one sales guy, but they need a sales manager. I mean, do I hire somebody? Do I just figure it out and learn it? What would you recommend? Because I think a lot of people struggle with that.
So if, you know, what Curtis did when he started with salespeople, he didn't hire a sales manager right off the bat. He hired a salesperson. And, you know, at that point in time, I think when you're building a sales team, it makes sense for, you know, an owner or somebody in the organization to manage that salesperson. But I think like I said, you want to hire somebody that's high energy, that's got a great work ethic. I think hiring somebody a salesperson that is already selling to you is a good way to interview salespeople. If you have that salesperson, and I know every roofing company's got salespeople that beat them to death, you know, I think trying to find that person that's got the sales experience. And then you put a number out there, you get the right number, and you hold them accountable to it. You hold them accountable to activities. You know, someone like Ryan can give you those numbers that make sense, that you hold the salespeople accountable to, and then you hire that person. And if they're not working, then you got to find somebody else that can do it. And then you start the sales team. And when you find that right person, you know, not necessarily, especially when you're talking about a sales manager versus a salesperson, most of your really good sales managers probably aren't your best salespeople, because they're managing people, not necessarily hungry to go prospect and do things like that. So,
okay. So let me see if I can prime Michael to add a valuable piece to this. Somebody earlier had asked about the scorecard for service, and that's an EOS contractor that's asking. And rather than share that, what I'd like Michael to share is the behaviors that you're expecting the salespeople to generate every week. Do this off the top of your head. I know you don't have the list in front of you, but how many cold calls, warm calls, follow-up calls, how many presentations, what is their expected behaviors of a salesperson?
So they need 100 touches a week. When I say 100 touches a week, that's a mix of telephone calls and what we consider cold calls or warm calls. That number should typically be about 60 phone calls versus 40 cold calls. Then we have what we consider a discovery meeting, which is a meeting that you get to the level to where someone is willing to talk to you. And then we can actually start the baseline selling and get to that next step of, are they a prospect or where they want us to be? So with that discovery meeting, they need to have 10 discovery meetings per week. And out of those discovery meetings, we feel like there's going to be about a 70%, capture rate of, yes, we need to do business with this person. They have a need. So 7 presentations should come out of those discovery meetings. So they should have 10 discovery meetings, 7 presentation meetings. And then we have what we call continual contacts, where you're going back and going to current customers that we already do business with, that you're just, asking if there's any need, keeping a relationship going. They should have 40 of those calls a week. That pretty much runs it down. It's about 200 touches a week.
So I would encourage all of you that think you have salespeople to look at the number of touches they have per week, because I think most companies' salespeople that have not had proper training woefully underperform on the touches. You do the touches, you do the behaviors, and you have reasonable sales skills, the sales will go. Ryan, would you agree with that?
100%. If you cannot prospect, take someone from cold to sold, you're not a salesperson. You're just an order taker servicing an existing client you didn't land. And I think that's exactly what the philosophy needs to be in your company is, hey, many of you have 5 accounts, some of you have 100 accounts, but you have infrastructure to service them. But we know if you just start calling on them only, that's going to run out rather quickly. You're going to get some stuff, you're going to get some low hanging fruit, we call it. But if we're not prospecting outbound, right, cold outbound and getting interest, because there's a cycle to that, then you're not a sales organization at all. You're not. So I think it's really important that everybody who's a salesperson is a prospector at first, at heart. Then they got to love to hunt. And they'll fill that pipeline up. So we're about at an hour. This is fantastic. Rackley, Michelle, Michael, you guys are amazing. We just want to thank you. We have more questions, but I think that we're going to need to probably wrap this up. If they wanted to ask you all questions, would you be open to receiving those at any point and get to them at some point?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We have people come in here all the time and we'll run through everything that, answer any question that you have.
Awesome. And how could they reach you guys?
So my email is Michelle, MICHELLE at Rackley, RACKLEY roofing.com.
And mine is just like hers, except for it's Michael. So it's MICHAEL at RackleyRoofing.com. And if there's a list that's compiled from here, I know the last call we did at one point in time, there was a list compiled of questions that we didn't get to. If y'all do have a list of those, if they're emailed to us, we'll be glad to try to answer them. Every one of them that we can.
Yeah. This has been really great. So I just want to also say, Greg and I are not just doing this for our entertainment. If you're not a client of ours, you need to become one. Rackley is a client of both of ours, and they're getting somewhere for a reason. The key is you have to be a winner and committed and open to change and doing the work. So we're not going to go in and do it for you, or else you'll have to pay me a lot more money than you would for my program, and I ain't going to do it. So that being said, you guys need to reach out to us. Greg and I have an affordable route to help you grow. Both of us have an online course and even more in-depth coaching vehicle to help you grow with your team. And another question we had was, are we doing these regularly? The plan is that Greg and I will do these regularly, and that you guys will have an opportunity to hear from other great contractors that are in our network. So that being said,
Ryan, let me jump in a second. There is the first key to building a great service organization is for the owner of the roofing company to be appropriately engaged in the process. Who is not on this call today, but I think is listening in, is Curtis Sutton.
And by appropriately, that means fully engaged.
Yes. if you're an owner of a roofing company and you think that you can assign this to somebody, you are wildly delusional. That doesn't work. And I acknowledge the fact that you have many different irons in the fire as an owner of a roofing company that you have to manage. And I'm not going to prioritize for you that you do this one over that. That's a decision that you have to make. And I'm willing to trust that you can do that correctly. But if you want service to grow, you're going to have to be involved, and probably more than you want.
The owner, prepare to get uncomfortable. One thing I know about Curtis is he is very comfortable being uncomfortable. He is open-minded and he'll do the work. Everybody that we work with that gets incredible results, the owner is innovative and they're disciplined. The stuff that these guys are doing, Greg and I would teach you, are very uncomfortable at first. They're hard to change, but no one's got the battery power, the juice that you do as the owner. You're the visionary. You're the one who has a desire to grow something for the reasons you want. If that juice is not being pumped into this, it ain't going to work. So
And frankly, probably in most cases with smaller companies, the owner's also going to be the first salesperson.
And if that owner can become a salesperson and trained, boy, it gets real dangerous, because now you're going to double and triple your income pretty quickly for one. And then after you do that, you'll have a standard to impart and impose upon the new people that come in, and many owners, they like to skip that part. And then the sales guy, they're so impressed and razzled and dazzled, and then they're not very good. And then they're mad and they lose a lot of money. So if you want to do this right, it's good that an owner learns how to sell. And that's something that Curtis definitely knows about and does. And Michael came from experience and took what we taught, and was already sales trained. It was just another way of helping his team. So very, very good. We'll send out this recording. We'll put it out there. Please watch it. Please share it. Any last words, Michael, Michelle, for the industry? First off, thank you for being an industry-oriented company. You have the hashtag transforming the industry. Who else is doing that? I don't know anybody who actually cares about the industry more than themselves and worried about their competition and all that stuff. That's such a limiting belief. You guys just bonk that. You just debunk that limiting belief. You say, we know if we help the industry, everything's going to work out. So thank you for serving the industry and being leaders and innovators. Any last words to those listening? We still have about 75 that might want to hear one more thing you have to say.
I would say to your point, network and be involved and give back. I have to say, I'm involved heavily with National Women in Roofing. You should join it. Men can be members. We are all on this call are RT3 members, which is a great organization. NRCA, the Roofing Alliance. There's so many different organizations out there to be a part of. But don't just sign the check and walk away. Be fully engaged and fully involved. You'll learn a lot from a lot of people. A lot of the stuff that we're doing are bits and pieces of things that we've pulled from somebody we've met somewhere at something.
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate what Michelle said, there's no magic, no magic thing you can sign up for that's going to make you magically become a great company. You got to be fully invested in it. There's so many great resources out there. There's so many great coaches out there. Ryan and Greg are definitely two of the best. You got to be committed to it. And if you're committed to it, these guys can help you a lot. So thanks for having us on. I really enjoyed it. I love to talk. So I'm right at home here. So but thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Bye all. See you later.
Hi, everybody. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.